Welcome to District Command Central, your go-to source for the latest news and updates on the Washington Commanders. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a play. The Washington Commanders entered Week 3 of the NFL season facing a challenge that could easily have derailed their offensive rhythm. Their reliable tight end John Bates, a steady force in both blocking assignments and passing plays, was sidelined with a groin injury, forcing head coach Dan Quinn to dig deeper into his roster. In the NFL, depth at any position is constantly tested, but at tight end, where versatility is essential, the burden becomes even heavier. Against the Las Vegas Raiders, this responsibility fell squarely on the shoulders of Ben Sinnott and Colson Yankoff. For many fans, these names were unfamiliar, backup pieces in a game dominated by stars. But in Washington's system, the opportunity for the unexpected often comes when least anticipated. And in Week 3, both Sinnott and Yankoff took center stage, showing that the Commanders may have more strength in this position than people thought. What made the performance notable wasn't just that Sinnott filled the void, but the way he did it. Dan Quinn highlighted afterward how offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury tailored the game plan, adjusting to each tight end's strengths rather than forcing them into Bates' mold. Bates is known for his physicality, the kind of tight end who can grind against defensive ends and carve space through sheer determination. Sinnott, however, brings a different weapon: speed. He explodes off the ball, using agility and quick cuts to get separation before defenders can even set their feet. This contrast in styles created intriguing mismatches, and the Commanders leaned into it, finding ways to exploit opportunities that might not have been there with Bates. For a coaching staff often scrutinized for predictability, this was a refreshing display of flexibility. Quinn's comments after the game revealed just how impressed he was. He pointed out that this was not only the most playing time Sinnott had received so far, but also the most impactful performance of his young career. That combination, extended reps and actual production, can't be underestimated. A backup playing well in limited snaps is encouraging, but doing it across the course of a full game, against a competitive defense, is what builds trust from coaches and teammates. He really cut it loose, Quinn said, describing Sinnott's aggressiveness. That phrase resonated because it reflected more than execution. It reflected confidence. For a player in a backup role, confidence can be the dividing line between just filling in and truly stepping up. Of course, no one expected Sinnott to be a carbon copy of Bates, and that was part of the beauty of his performance. Instead of trying to mimic Bates' approach, he embraced his own strengths. He stretched the field in different ways, worked the seams, and used his burst to get into the second level of the Raiders' defense. Fans watching could see him attacking each snap like it might be his last, refusing to let the moment overwhelm him. That type of hunger is contagious. It not only energizes the offense, but also gives the coaching staff new wrinkles to consider going forward. For Colson Yankoff, the spotlight was a little dimmer, but his presence shouldn't be overlooked. Tight end depth in the NFL is about more than the player catching the passes. It's about the guy who seals the edge on a run, chips a defender to buy the quarterback an extra second, or quietly does the dirty work that doesn't show up in the box score. Yankoff embraced those duties, and though his role wasn't as flashy as Sinnott's, it was no less important to keeping the Commanders' offensive balance intact. The broader story here is how Washington responded to adversity. It's easy to panic when a key piece of the offense is missing. It's easy to shrink from the challenge when your plan A is suddenly off the field. But the Commanders showed resilience. And in the NFL, resilience is often the difference between teams that merely survive the season and teams that push toward the playoffs. Depth wins games. Depth sustains confidence. And depth, when proven on a Sunday afternoon, can shift the narrative of an entire position group. The Raiders' game wasn't without its tense moments, but what stood out was Washington's commitment to balance. As Quinn explained, you never truly know how a game will play out. You can prepare a game plan, but football has a way of forcing adjustments. In this case, when the run game began finding rhythm, the Commanders leaned into it. Sinnott's ability to get off the line quickly and create angles played right into that, adding a layer of versatility that made the offense harder to defend. It wasn't just about filling a hole left by Bates. It was about unlocking new possibilities that could pay dividends long after Bates returns. Still, the question looming over this performance is durability. Bates' groin injury may keep him sidelined longer than initially hoped, and that means Sinnott will likely be asked to hold down the fort for at least another game. One strong outing is encouraging, but consistency is the real test in the NFL. Can Sinnott replicate his impact against different defenses? Can Yankoff continue to carve out a niche role that keeps the offense steady? Those answers will come soon, especially with the Atlanta Falcons on the horizon in Week 4. The Falcons present a different challenge altogether, with a defense that thrives on speed and discipline. Washington's ability to counter that will hinge once again on how creative Kingsbury can be with his tight ends. If Sinnott can prove that his Week 3 breakout wasn't just a one-time spark but the beginning of a dependable stretch, then the Commanders will have unearthed a valuable asset they didn't know they had at the start of the season. Fans should be paying attention because every year in the NFL, storylines emerge from unexpected places, and right now, the Commanders' tight end depth is one of those stories. What makes this situation even more intriguing is how it reshapes the long-term outlook for Washington's roster. Bates is undoubtedly the starter when healthy, but if Sinnott continues to develop, the Commanders may find themselves with a deeper, more dynamic tight end group than they imagined. It's not just about surviving Bates' absence anymore. It's about building an offense that can adapt to multiple styles of play, keeping defenses guessing. That kind of versatility is gold in today's NFL. As the Commanders prepare for Week 4, there's a quiet buzz surrounding Sinnott. He's no longer just a backup pressed into duty. He's a player who has shown he belongs on the field. For a team that's trying to establish its identity under Dan Quinn's leadership, these are the moments that matter. Depth isn't just about plugging gaps. It's about finding new weapons, new voices, and new confidence in players who might otherwise be overlooked. Washington's depth at tight end has been tested, and for now, it's passed with flying colors. And so the story continues. The Commanders head into their matchup with the Falcons with renewed belief in their depth, newfound trust in their backups, and the knowledge that sometimes adversity doesn't weaken a team, it strengthens it. For fans, it's a reminder of why the NFL captivates us week after week. You never know when the next breakout performance is coming or who will rise. When their number is called. For Ben Sinnott and the Commanders, Week 3 was that moment. Now the challenge is to turn it from a spark into a steady flame. If you're enjoying the coverage, make sure to smash that like button and drop a comment with your thoughts on the Commanders' latest moves. We want to hear from you. Explosive drama is shaking the NFL, and it's not coming from a shocking trade or a late-game comeback. No, this time the storm originates directly from the locker room, and the lightning rod is none other than Jayden Daniels, the quarterback who has become the face of Arizona's rebuilding hopes. In a revelation that's sending shockwaves across the league, Daniels has openly criticized head coach Dan Quinn in remarks that could only be described as blistering, saying bluntly, "We played scared. It's unacceptable." The words hit like a bombshell, instantly igniting speculation and debates among fans, analysts, and even former players. It's the kind of statement that doesn't just stay in headlines for a day. It lingers, it festers, and it demands a deeper look into what might be really happening behind closed doors in the Cardinals' locker room. From the outside, Dan Quinn's tenure with Arizona has seemed a mix of high expectations and frustrating inconsistency. Hired with the promise of building a tough, disciplined team, Quinn was supposed to bring structure and accountability to a franchise that had been struggling to find its identity. Yet, according to Daniels, the reality is far from the glossy PR images fans see on social media or the confident soundbites delivered after a narrow win. "We played scared," Daniels admitted, a phrase that suggests fear, hesitation, and possibly a lack of trust in leadership. 3 words you almost never expect to hear from a quarterback in today's NFL. For a player of his caliber to speak so candidly indicates that tensions are running high, that the disconnect between coaching strategy and player execution may be more severe than anyone imagined. Inside sources, though unnamed, have begun to surface in the wake of Daniels' remarks, offering a glimpse of what life under Quinn might feel like from a player's perspective. According to these whispers, there's a pervasive sense of overcautiousness during practices, as if every throw, every decision on the field, is being second-guessed or micromanaged to the point of paralysis. Players reportedly feel pressured not to make mistakes rather than encouraged to take calculated risks, a mindset that can be lethal in a league where innovation and split-second decisions often make the difference between a win and a humiliating loss. Daniels' words, then, are not just a critique. They are a public acknowledgement that the team may be suffering from an invisible psychological barrier imposed from the top. The timing of this revelation is particularly combustible, coming after a string of inconsistent performances where the Cardinals' offense has oscillated between flashes of brilliance and moments of inexplicable hesitation. Daniels' criticism has set off a wildfire of online discussion. Fans have taken to Twitter and Instagram with hashtags speculating about Quinn's future, while sports pundits on cable and digital platforms are dissecting every nuance of Daniels' statement. There's a sense that we might be witnessing the early stages of a fracture that could affect the team's trajectory this season. Every analyst seems to be asking the same question. Can a team genuinely thrive when its quarterback feels constrained by fear rather than empowered by trust? Adding another layer of intrigue, Daniels' personality has always been that of a bold, sometimes unfiltered leader, the type who speaks his mind even when it's uncomfortable. This is not a player who minces words or tempers his emotions for political correctness. That makes his comments about Quinn all the more potent. They're not an offhand gripe or a casual complaint in the locker room. They are a calculated, public declaration that something within the team's culture is broken. Some insiders suggest that Daniels has grown increasingly frustrated with what he sees as strategic rigidity, a style of coaching that prioritizes avoiding mistakes over seizing opportunities. And in a league where one explosive drive can shift the momentum of a season, that philosophy can be deadly. What makes the situation even more combustible is the history of Dan Quinn himself. Known for his defensive-minded coaching and previously celebrated for building resilient, disciplined squads, Quinn has never shied away from criticism. Yet, when the critique comes from a star quarterback, arguably the most visible voice in any NFL franchise, it takes on an entirely new dimension. Daniels' remarks effectively shine a spotlight on Quinn's approach, suggesting that while it may have worked in other contexts, it might be ill-suited for this particular group of players. Rumors are already circulating that the tension is not just tactical but personal, hinting at disagreements in the locker room over how games are called, how risks are managed, and even how much creative freedom Daniels should have on the field. Even more fascinating are the reactions, or lack thereof, from the Cardinals organization. Official channels have been notably quiet, releasing standard boilerplate statements about team focus and unity, but insiders suggest that behind the scenes, executives are scrambling to manage the optics. When a quarterback publicly questions the leadership's approach, it isn't just a minor PR hiccup. It's a warning sign that could affect morale, performance, and ultimately, ticket sales. Meanwhile, fan forums are alive with speculation. Some argue that Quinn must adapt or risk losing not only Daniels' trust, but potentially his own job. Others suggest that the quarterback should adjust to the system, highlighting the classic tension between talent and structure. The truth, however, seems murkier, and that murkiness is exactly what fuels the fire of rumor and debate. What makes Daniels' statements especially explosive is the language he chose. Saying a team played scared is not a throwaway comment. In football, fear is a performance killer. It implies hesitation, lack of confidence, and an environment where creativity is stifled. To suggest that this was unacceptable is tantamount to saying that the leadership has failed to cultivate a culture where players can perform at their peak. Sports psychology experts watching this saga unfold have noted that such comments often presage major shifts in team dynamics, from changes in coaching staff to alterations in play-calling philosophy. Every word Daniels used is being dissected for hidden meaning, and the consensus seems to be that something significant, perhaps seismic, is brewing in Arizona. Then there's the human element. Football is as much about relationships as it is about excess and OS. A quarterback's connection to his coach is foundational. When that bond frays, the impact can be catastrophic. Daniels' public critique is a clear signal that the trust that should exist between him and Quinn may be eroding. Whether this will lead to reconciliation, internal adjustments, or a dramatic parting of ways remains anyone's guess. But for fans and media alike, the revelation has created a tantalizing narrative, one full of intrigue, tension, and the potential for high drama in the weeks to come. Ultimately, what Daniel's comments reveal is that the Cardinals' season may hinge less on raw talent or the brilliance of a single play than on the psychology and morale of the team. In a league where mental fortitude is as critical as physical skill, having a quarterback openly admit that fear governs the team's approach is both alarming and illuminating. As rumors swirl and analysts continue to speculate, one thing is clear. Arizona is a team under the microscope, and the next chapter of this story could redefine not only the season, but potentially the careers of both Daniels and Quinn. Will the quarterback and coach find common ground? Or will this public airing of grievances set the stage for a dramatic showdown? For now, fans can only watch, debate, and wait, knowing that the tension simmering in the locker room could explode at any moment. And that explosion, when it comes, will be unforgettable. Thanks for tuning into District Command Central. Make sure to subscribe and follow us for all the Commanders news you need. Until next time, keep the faith and hail to the Commanders.